Oh, there was a race today at Richmond.
Let's go racing today, boys!
Hey,
Kiss you
hey,
all up. Hey,
hey,
hey, hey.
hey.
My pants on?
Hey.
Okay. Oh, we're good. Okay, thank God.
Oh,
Joe.
I'm not.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. That's fine. So there's a race at Richmond today. Unfortunately,
There
Joe
was?
watched it outside, fell asleep, as you can tell, and
Yeah.
it was there. So yeah, typically we jump in and we're like, "Hey guys, there was a great race today. Everything exciting happened," and instead it was, "Hey guys, I'll probably put this on for my kids whenever they can't sleep."
Yeah. Terrible. That
So
race was so bad today, I got drunk. That's how bad it was.
that's pretty bad. That's
I
pretty
know.
bad.
And I don't even drink.
Right. No, it got to that point.
Turned me into an alcoholic.
You even talked to your probation officer and said, "I have to do this."
Yeah. And he was like, okay, just report to jail on Monday. And I said, all right.
Yeah. Being in jail might have been better than having to watch whatever that was for 3 hours.
I'm sure it would have been.
Yeah. The only person who enjoyed that race was Rob Manfred because it ended in a very good amount of time. And he likes things to end quickly.
That was terrible.
Even his honeymoon night. But anyway, so yeah, Richmond happened. It was the Cookout 400, even though my television said it was the Federated Auto Parts 400.
Yeah.
So
Stupid.
this race, it did have its fair share of people begin the race fast, and then they kind of slowed down, and then some other people took over, and then they kind of slowed down. But at the end of the day, Chris Buescher ended up winning the race today. So we do want to congratulate Chris Buescher. Joe and I had a conversation about which RFK driver would make it. I said I thought Chris Buescher could win. I wasn't thinking that when this race was going on. I thought this would be a Brad Keselowski race. Granted, I said I thought he'd win at Daytona, but both of the RFK cars were fast. But before we get into talking about the winner, Joe, we always start the show off with how did you enjoy the race? So give us how you felt about today's race.
I didn't. That's it. That was terrible. It's terrible.
What flag would you give it?
I don't know. We're burning the flags. We're tearing the stadium down.
Wow,
Yeah, we're chipping up the asphalt. They got to figure something out for Richmond. I mean, the last 2 years has been incredibly boring. I think we got a decent race at Richmond when it was a little wet.
We did.
Yeah,
that was it.
That it was because it was wet. I'll tell you what, NASCAR has got, and this is like us beating a dead horse because every time we get a short track, it seems like we're on here saying the same thing. NASCAR has got to figure something out with the short tracks to make it more exciting. If it wasn't for Daniel Suarez, and I'll call it lack of driving, you said he got some help. I'm calling BS. I just think that he can't drive. If it wasn't for him spinning out with 10 laps to go, Chris Buescher would have won by 9 seconds. It was bad.
Yeah, today's the only day, Joe, that we could literally have a show and have a serious argument whether or not the Formula One race was better than the NASCAR race.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, it wasn't, by the way, but yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, we could go back and forth all day long on what NASCAR can do, limit the tire change. I don't know other than putting more horsepower in these cars for short tracks. I have no idea what the fix to this is.
Yeah, the only thing I thought about, Joe, and I'll give it a black flag, which is the worst. A red flag will stop the action. A black flag is just, we're done. We're done. This is the old school black flag, not the pass-through penalty. It's get off the track. We're done.
Yeah.
We could have saved us like 2 hours from watching this. And again, I'm a type of person, Joe, and you know this. I can find something positive almost out of every race. I'm the type of guy that can watch an analytical race. There was none of that. There was no fuel drama. There was no tire drama. There was nothing. The only drama there was, are you going to make pit road or are you going to drive over the orange square? That was the only thing we had the entire day. So, and at the end of the day, I looked at this, Joe, and I look at the flag behind me that's there every single week. And I literally said, there is no way in hell this track deserves 2 freaking dates compared to what we have on the schedule and then lose this track behind us or Chicagoland.
Exactly. Why weren't we at Kentucky Speedway today?
There's no way it would be worse. I mean, there's just no way. There's no way it would be worse.
You cannot get worse than what we saw today.
And the funny thing is, Joe, like the momentum when it comes to like attendance, we've seen Pocono was sold out. We saw WWT has been sold out. Nashville was sold out. Today, tens of thousands of open seats, and you know why? It's boring as hell.
It's incredibly boring. And you know, if NASCAR is going to be a sport and we have all these changes, we've changed the cars, you know, to run better at mile and a half, so to run better at you know, road courses. You know, super speedways are always a show. It is what it is. It doesn't matter what car you put somebody in a super speedway, it's going to be a show. I think NASCAR has to sit down and have a serious conversation about whether or not that this sport is for short tracks anymore, because every short track that NASCAR has been to the last 2 years has been incredibly boring. We've had some drama on the Bristol Dirt, but that's because of the makeup of that race and the dynamics of racing on dirt. Outside of that, I mean, that race was a gimmick. We know that. We like I said, we've seen some drama at the end, but you know, right now, this car cannot run on a short track, and it's incredibly boring. And short track racing for NASCAR has all but died. And today further proves what everybody has been saying for the last 2 years. It's terrible.
Yeah. And I agree. Like we obviously have a problem with short track racing. I look today more of Richmond, and I don't think Richmond doesn't deserve not to have a date. I will say that there's a lot of tracks that people in the communities that support there. They go to these different tracks. So taking a track away is, to me, never going to be an option, Joe, until we have more tracks than that we don't need to double up dates, if that makes sense. Like,
right.
If there's enough tracks to where each track could run one time, then run each track one time. I completely understand that. That's fine with me. If I look at Richmond and go, it's not my favorite, but the people in the community support it, hell with it. Give Richmond its track. Let people from the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth, go and support their track. What's another funny thing is they nicknamed it the Action Track. I don't know if that's like a tongue-in-cheek or like an oxymoron or whatever, but certainly more tracks deserve a second date than what the hell we saw this past today. I mean, it was this race, the spring race. But at the end of the day, Chris Buescher was the winner, well-deserved winner. He was running really, really good today. Both Brad Keselowski and himself ran really, really well. So let's go ahead and look at the top 10 real quick before we get into, I guess, whatever you want to call the bullet points for today. Chris Buescher gets first. Actions Hypocritical gets second. That's Denny Hamlin. Rowdy third. Pencil Neck fourth. Priest Lightning gets fifth. Brad K sixth. Martin Truex Jr. salvages a seventh place finish. Eric Almirola, again, for whatever reason, really good at this track, ends up doing well. Silver Spoon, that's Austin Dillon, if you don't know who that is, got ninth. And I would say a disappointing day for Kevin Harvick. I think he thought he had a chance to win today after winning last year at this track, and didn't do that well. But Joe, I think we should talk about who's not in the top 10, because it was a disappointing day for 2311, who we saw at the beginning of this race. It was the Tyler Reddick show, led the entire first stage. Bubba Wallace was fast. I mean, he was second, third, and then in the second stage, he was leading. Both of them finished outside the top 10. Bubba's car faded away towards the end of the race, or Bubba faded away.
They had 2311 had great cars out there. Lack of talent took over during the race, and they ended up outside the top 10.
The one these last two are very surprising to me. Hendrick and Trackhouse. Chase Elliott was the fastest today and was barely inside the top 10. Kyle Larson, nowhere to be found. The best racing we saw was Kyle Larson and Alex Bowman battling to be the first driver a lap down at the end of one of the stages. And I mean, that just William Byron, who was qualifying the top 10th, him and Kyle Larson dominated at this track earlier this year, and they were nowhere to be found. And then Trackhouse Racing hasn't had a top 10 since Ross Chastain won the race. And you look at them now, I think that, what was it? Daniel Suarez qualified next to last, being beat out by Rick Ware teams. And then on top of that, Ross Chastain was like in the mid-20s, and neither one of them, Joe, showed up, I don't think, in the top 15 the entire day. No. So I my bigger storyline, I mean, obviously RFK did really well. They're showing improvement. I mean, obviously we've said that. Now they got a car locked in. But Joe, go ahead and speak to some of these teams that kind of just, in my mind, baffled me today.
Well, Hendrick just missed the mark, and I mean we've seen Childress struggle with short tracks earlier this season, but Hendrick just missed it today. 2311, I think, had they had the right setup in their cars, and I'm halfway joking, but I'm halfway serious when I say lack of talent took over there. They had very fast cars at the beginning of the race. I really think they had fast cars all day long. I think really the dirty air is really kind of gets brought to the surface on these short tracks, because it seems like when you're out front on a short track, you stay there. Of course, Richmond, not a great place to really pass, especially if you're a leader out front. But I really think that, once you start falling back in the pack, it's hard to get back up front again. And you almost got to jockey your way and get out front and stay there. Trackhouse, I really don't know. I don't think Daniel Suarez is the answer. I think that, Trackhouse needs to start looking past Daniel Suarez. I think Ross Chastain obviously is going to be, or is already, a superstar in this sport. I think he's a great driver. I don't like the guy, but I think he could take a team somewhere. But, if Trackhouse wants to continue their momentum of being one of the top teams like they have been the last 2 years, they're going to have to look past Daniel Suarez, because he's not the answer. Their cars were not that bad that Suarez should have been qualifying near the bottom and running like he was today.
My biggest thing, too, is now, to me, Joe, in the last 2 years, I don't remember Hendrick just completely not showing up. And we've had a couple times this year that's happened. Obviously, WWT was one where, Corey LaJoie filled in, but nobody else. I think Larson ran, 8th or something like that, and finished in the top 10. But outside of that, nobody else had speed. And what do you think the difference in the track itself is between spring and summer?
Yeah, the track was wet in the spring.
It's also cooler.
Yeah.
And today it was hot and slippery. So that is a difference itself. I mean, you'll see that with Bristol. That's why they went with dirt, because nobody wants to go there whenever it's cool. But like before Zach's question there, it's kind of surprising to me with Hendrick. We've gotten to that point to where there's a track where they simply may not have a guy show up with any type of speed. And I don't remember that in the last 2 years. 2311, this is a terrible finish for them. They had speed the entire week, practice, qualifying, and during the race. I mean, dominated the first half of this race and don't have one driver inside the top 10. And then, like you said, with Trackhouse, I didn't think Trackhouse would be as good as they were last year, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't be competing for top 10s. I mean, they had Wood Brothers racing speed today. And,
right.
And that's kind of just wild to me. But the one thing, Joe, we can now move on to are the Fords. You and I have been very critical of them. Obviously, on super speedways, they've been solid. But today, man, I mean, they were fast. I mean, RFK was fast. Stewart Haas Racing had all 4 drivers inside the top 12 at one point. Gene Haas probably was having a heart attack. Tony Stewart probably put down whatever steering wheel he had in his hand and go, holy shit, what? I mean,
yeah, he's playing iRacing.
Just sending. You think he gets permabanned for his comments?
Yeah.
I'll kick your ass.
Yeah.
Piece of shit.
Oh my God. Bust his ass.
Yeah. Some kid. Mommy, Smoke's yelling at me again.
Yeah. Shut up.
Well, quit riding his ass, son.
Yeah.
But no, Ford showed some speed, and I think this is the first short track we've seen Ford show any speed at all. But now, Joe, I mean, they can build off this momentum because going to Michigan next week, the Fords have done really, really well there. Do you think that this is something that, could be a trend moving forward with Ford and they actually show something for the playoffs? Or do you just think they're going to have their 2 weeks in the sun and then kind of go back to normal?
Well, man, I don't know. I just don't. Much like talking like, when you talk about Joey Logano, just kind of coming out of nowhere. It seems like he's shitty, and then all of a sudden he looks like the best driver in the sport, I think maybe we're going to get a tale of 2 seasons here where, Ford kind of resurrects itself and they're running in the top 10 and then, they're having good finishes every week. Today's race was like a who's who of crappy drivers finishing in the top 10. I mean, seriously, and I don't want to call them crappy drivers, but I mean, when you're talking about, Chris Buescher, I not to hurt anybody's feelings because I know there's some Chris Buescher fans out there, but you're talking about Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece, Almirola, Austin Dillon. It's like those are all your drivers. Those are drivers inside the top 10. You go outside of that into the top 15. Chase Briscoe at 11th, Bubba Wallace at 12th, which I know he's had some good finishes, and Ty Gibbs at 15th. So, it's kind of like today's race wasn't what you were going to expect out of a typical race. I mean, typically you see one of those guys in the top 15, maybe one in the top 10. You don't normally see that many what I would call second-tier drivers finishing in the top 15 on any given race.
So what you're saying is Ford has a lot of second-tier drivers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah. Well, go ahead.
No, it's just –
Ty Gibbs isn't a second-tier driver. He's just young,
Right.
So.
Right. And honestly, I thought Ty Gibbs would be better today with the Toyotas, but he was not. And I look at it this way, like Ford did surprise me today. And another group that surprised me was RCR. I mean, I've been to Martinsville and watched that team run in the mid-20s. I did a video, Joe, that said there's no way Kyle Busch can win the championship because their short track speed absolutely is terrible. I mean, they literally roll off the truck and are in 25th place. So maybe today was just an anomaly. I mean, I listened to an interview during qualifying, and Kyle Busch always shoots it straight. They're like, Kyle, how do you like your car? Actually, it runs pretty good. And I went, wait, what?
Yeah.
We're at Richmond, right? I'm like, holy shit, maybe we will be decent today. I don't know. And then sure enough, he was pretty decent today. Then God forbid Austin Dillon finished in the top 10 after his crybaby breakdown, throwing a $3,000 helmet last week, 2 feet.
I would have made him race in the same helmet this week.
It probably would have fit better, honestly.
Yeah.
But Truex fans said this race was boring. So yes, Truex fan it was.
Yeah. Yes, we agree. Anytime Austin Dillon can get a top 10 finish, they're setting up the cars right because he needs all the help he can get.
Yeah, and he came from the mid of the pack, the back of the pack to get to the top 10. But again, unfortunately, we get 2 races at Richmond. I don't know if nighttime helps. I feel like some of the night races were a lot better. Maybe it's not going to help. Maybe, Joe, if we would have done this at 12 o'clock at night, there wouldn't be a post-race show because I would have woke up for work and you would have went, oh, shit, I didn't set my alarm to wake up from the race, and that would have been really bad.
Yeah. I actually probably would have got drunk if this was at night.
More drunker.
Yeah, more drunker. More have had drunk.
Yeah. So, guys, I promise you, like, I want to give you the most in-depth analysis post-race, but I'm not going to keep you for 45 minutes like that NASCAR race kept you for 3 hours with absolutely nothing to be entertained by. So, outside of that, if you guys have any questions, before we log off here, I'm just going to kind of update what's going on this week. Joe gets hot and heavy. high school football starts.
That's
So
right.
Joe, we are glad you're here. I know that you're getting you'll be really busy. So
Yeah.
we'll have you
It
on.
officially starts. Obviously, we've already started.
Correct. But we're talking about practice.
So practice, man.
So you'll be on whenever you can. And next week it'll be a little bit different because I am headed up to Michigan. So I will be at the SRX race on Thursday. I will be at Michigan on Sunday. And I just found out the basketball coach is going. So I'm going to meet him up there as well. So I will be putting content on here, and it will be sporadically, but it won't be the traditional show.
That's right.
That's pretty good.
That's right.
That's pretty good. I wonder, hold on a second, Joe. We haven't had a lot of things like that we can show really entertaining. So let me see if I can pull this up, and we'll end the show off this way.
Is this me in the Speedo?
No, we got we got threatened to get banned with that last time.
Yeah.
So let me see what I can do here. And can't have that on. We'll get right to it in just a second. Hopefully SRX show is good. Obviously, my boy Kyle Busch will be going for defending back-to-back wins while winning Thursday. We've had some good audiences for those live streams.
I enjoyed the SRX race this week. I couldn't get on with you. I had to watch it from my phone, but I enjoyed the race.
It was a good one. Hold on. I think I got it, Joe.
All right.
So we'll end the best way that we can. Tell me if you can hear this. All right, here we go. This was possibly maybe Joe and I when we went to Buffalo, trying to find our way back to the hotel, which was across the parking lot.
Yeah, we got lost. Yeah.
Hopefully the race couldn't bring you smiles, but let's see if this does.
You're drunk. Okay, you're drunk. Give me your keys. And I'm drunk, so I'll give you my keys. Okay, now we're both good to drive home. You've been drinking tonight, sir?
No. I sat a glass of dinner with my wine.
Okay, I'm gonna need you to step out of the car and walk a straight line, please. All right, you be safe, sir. There's a lot of crazies out there tonight.
So hopefully that'll make you smile because yeah, I mean
That's fun.
There was nothing great about the race, guys. So I'll give you my keys and you give you your keys.
Yeah,
because we're both drunk.
Right.
So. Well, Joe, I will be getting with you whenever I head back to the Hoosier State, and hopefully Michigan treats us to a much better showing, and hopefully, Joe, you find yourself a Peyton Manning at quarterback in practice this week.
Yeah, I hope so. Ann Arbor's a whore.
I know Zach will agree because he's a Spartan fan. So, guys, my name is Ryan Peters for Joe Spillman. This has been the Richmond Race Review.